3, 2, 1, 0.
Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio. Live from the heart of the downtown east side, it's Talk Recovery Radio with Giuseppe Ganci and Darren Gaylor on Vancouver's Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. From the streets to the studio, bringing you addiction recovery stories from real people with lived experience and real experts on today's issues. Tune in live every Thursday, noon to 1. Powered by New West Recovery. Real people, real issues, real life. Talk Recovery Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello. This is Giuseppe Ganci, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Gaylor. Hey, Darren.
Hey, Giuseppe. How's
it
it going?
I'm doing good. Doing good. I just turned 50.
Happy birthday.
Yes. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I'm pretty happy. Got a little party happening pretty soon on the weekend. And you know what, though? I made it at 50. You want to know why? I had 2 clowns wished me a happy birthday, and they actually put it on CTV, like a little birthday thing. And I was just like, I'm never going to get a date. I've got clouds all over my Facebook. So it was kind of cool. Special thanks to everybody that sent me a message turning 50. It was pretty powerful day, and really grateful for all that.
Right on. Glad you're alive.
You know what? I thought about that. I'm like, I've done some crazy stuff, and I'm just what do I do with that? And that's pay it forward and be of service and I try to be nice to people. And I you hear it when you go to meetings, I'm on board time, and trust me, I'm on board time. Like, I am totally, like, I surrender. Like, I am, when I know people that are 19 that are overdosed, I just think to myself, I'm like, I'm no one owes me anything. Government, religion, work, like nobody, the guy down the street, like I'll pay my dues. Like, I just I'm grateful, and I'm just just glad, especially when I was in my early ages with drinking and drugging. It was a nightmare. So if you're out there, feeling like the world owes me, so much easier to be like, the world doesn't owe me nothing.
Yeah. To not be entitled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they say we just get one kick at this life gig, and to live it with entitlement and expectations. Like I'm sure you did. I did for a lot of while. It was confusing. Let's put it that way.
I just noticed my backdrop is my messy office. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to go to my usual background because
see how he really lives.
There we go. That's how we do it. Yeah, our Recovery Day picture in the background there. We'll see what happens this year with Recovery Day. I'm glad that our show is going to be about Spirituality Day. We're going to bring in our next guest that's coming in on the show. If you're listening to us on your favorite stream, like us and share us. If you're listening to us on YouTube, click subscribe. We're all over the place. Replay our show at talkrecoveryradio.com, powered by New West Recovery. And Darren, it's been 9 years of shows, hundreds of guests, thousands of listeners. And today is, that we have a new guest on our show today. And who are we talking recovery with today, Mr. Gaylor?
All right, we get to talk recovery with Ralph Benmergui, an award-winning broadcaster with the CBC and then with Jazz FM 91 also. He's also hosted, written, and co-produced documentaries, My Israel, God Bless America, and 5 Seekers. He's become an ordained spiritual director and also hosts 2 podcasts, and now also added to the list, published author with his biography called I Thought He Was Dead, a Spiritual Memoir. Welcome to the show, Ralph.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome.
We want to talk about, all that you are, but I'm first wondering about, I thought he was dead, a spiritual memoir. Who's the he?
Me.
Okay. So is this was something somebody else had thought?
Well, I had spent a large portion of my life in the public eye,
Okay.
on television and on radio and doing things. And I don't know about you, but when I sometimes read about somebody, like today, 94 years of age, Burt Bacharach died.
Oh,
no
And he
way.
was a great singer, great composer. I loved his stuff growing up. And there will be people who will read that and go, I thought he
Yeah.
was dead.
Right.
Right. So
I thought he was dead too. Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of people, for me, I kind of moved out of the public eye after about, 30 years of doing that stuff and writing the book and spiritual counseling and things like that, sort of working. I also work as a strategic advisor for environmental politics in this country. So I'd go to a party or something and somebody would go, this is Ralph Benmergui. And I'd see this look on their face and then realize what they were thinking was, I thought that guy was dead. So I liked it as a title because, it's part of the thing. My
It's
wife
great.
hated the title. She hated it. She was just like, why do you have to say things like that? Don't say things like that. And
Well,
then I said,
get-
honey, everybody asks me about the title. So it can't
There
be
you go.
that
Well, I
bad.
mean,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I mean, maybe that's more to the story and more to the book was, okay, so there you are in pub, people hear you on the radio,
Mhm.
see your face every now and then nothing. So was there something more to it? Was there an escape into self? Was there a transformation of sorts? Was there a
Yeah.
change?
Well, that's interesting. It's a good question because really for me, I was, as a young person, I had my ambitions. I wanted to climb the mountain. I wanted to get to the top. And it's funny, Peter Mansbridge was one of the people who wrote an endorsement of the book on the back of the book. And one of the things he said was, Ralph Benmergui was one of the most talented people to walk through the doors of the CBC, and he knew it.
Right on. That
Which
is perfect.
I just love that. But what happens is, sometimes, so I had a big variety show that was supposed to save everything. It was huge, right? Everyone was waiting for it. And it didn't work. It just didn't work. After a year and a half, they canceled it. And that was a great fall from grace.
Yeah.
And everybody has different ways of handling that. Some people double down, go harder. I took it as an opportunity to learn.
Mm.
What do I really want? And it wasn't an immediate thing. It just, over the years, it ended up becoming less and less a desire to be out in the public eye with what I do, and more contemplative. Becoming ordained as a spiritual director was part of that journey.
Okay.
And I think that for me, I really realized, like some people do when they get very wealthy, which I never was, but if you got very wealthy, you'd realize I'm not happy or happier. Like, this isn't it. This isn't the thing that's going to make me happy.
Right.
So I think for me, I realized that, climbing those mountains, there wasn't much of a view once you got up there.
I mean, that can be a shock, whether it's to the ego or, like Peter Mansbridge said, skilled and he knows it, often means, some cockiness, arrogance, and so
Yeah.
when you are mistaken, let's say, about your skill set, or something doesn't work out, that can be quite a hit and not handled very well. Like you say, when somebody realizes all this money is making me more miserable or less connected to my family, or whatever it may be, must be a very difficult phase in one's life. I think we can relate that in many different ways. So what was it that you realized, and maybe this led to, as you say, being ordained, but what became important, or what did you?
Well, spiritual work for me is about a big part of the work is the dissolution of ego. Right? That there's a lot of unhealthy, egoistic endeavor. We live in a society that is, in essence, itself an ego system. Right? We're at the top of the pyramid. Man has dominion over nature. And what we can live in instead is an ecosystem. We're just a thread in the unity of everything. And what we do affects everything. So right now, I'm writing another book on the climate crisis as a spiritual crisis, that we have lost our sense of awe, reverence, humility. So I really found myself gravitating towards these ideas more. My skill set was still my skill set.
Right.
I didn't think, oh, I had the wrong, I can't do this. I thought I could. It's, what am I doing with this?
Right.
Not
So
I can't.
direct it in an area that had more meaning for you. And
Yeah.
Most of our show, not most of our shows, all of our shows are typically about addiction, mental health, how to recover, pathway to recovery, with substances, alcohol, and everything. We've talked about everything on here, from psychedelics as medicine to abstinence to anti-abstinence, so everything. And, when we came across your information, we were like, spirituality is a big part of recovery, the spiritual malady. And, when you started talking about ego, I was just like, yes, that's, you don't have to, just have substance use disorder to have a problem with your ego and your place in society. And so it's great to hear this, because we're not the only ones. I'm in recovery, Darren's in recovery, so it's just like, I'm not the only one that's messed up. So really glad that you're here to kind of give our audience that usually focus on solely recovery from addiction, but really it's like the whole person. So it's very important that you're on the show today. One of the things that I first off want to ask you is, what's a spiritual counselor? What is that?
It's a form of companionship. There's that beautiful line that we're all just walking each other home, right? And I think the work with the people I work with, I don't end up, so some people will come to me and say, don't get me wrong, I don't believe in God. And I say, okay, well, tell me about the God you don't believe in. And they start to tell me who the God is they don't believe in. It's usually a guy with a great chair and a beard, a white beard, and a naughty and nice list. So they left off their religious or spiritual pursuits at adolescence, thinking two things. One, this is a bunch of fairy tales and it's silly, because we live in a rational age where everything has to be proven to you.
Right.
There's no mystery, or if there is, it's temporary. And the other part of it was just knowing that God, what I work with people, where I come from, is that the idea of God is just a thing we call the unknowable. I come from the Jewish faith, and God is unknowable. We are just, have you been looking at the James Webb Telescope pictures of the universe? They're
I haven't, but
you really should, because it just puts us in perspective. The way if you stand at the edge of an ocean, you realize your insignificance, and you just think, whatever with me. Well, try looking at clusters of galaxies, 5 galaxies, the 5 sisters. Just look at them and realize that that was 4.5 billion years ago, and the light is just reaching us now. That there are literally trillions of planets and planetoids. There's hundreds of millions of galaxies. So the idea of God is just a way to say, whoa, I have no idea what's going on here. And
Yeah.
you have to humble yourself to that.
Yeah.
But you also have to take responsibility for being within that. That spirituality, what I talk with people about, is spirituality is about a relationship. Your relationship to yourself. So you're in the middle of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. Intellectually, you're just like, I'm perfectly aware that this is a really good chance of lung cancer, and it is degrading my health on a daily basis. Absolutely. Anyway, where are they? Because it's not intellectual.
Right.
It's a spiritual deficit, because we are trapped in receiving and not giving. So I need this, give it to me, and maybe I'll feel better. I need the fame, I need the money, I need the hit. Something's got to make me, but it's got to come to me. I can't be flowing towards it. So I talk to people about spirituality as a relationship to yourself and a love of self, and a relationship to others, and to the natural world that we are not excluded from, we are a part of, but we've forgotten that. You know, when I work with political things, literally this ridiculous conversation has been going on where there's such a thing as choosing between the environment and the economy. Well, without an environment, there's no economy. It just doesn't work. So there's those relationships, and then your relationship to the universe itself. So you talked about psychedelics. Well, when I was 22 and doing mushrooms or acid, I got the cosmic joke. I was like, oh, I get it. We're just in this flow of creative energy that goes on forever. How cool is this?
Mhm.
The unity of everything, right? They use it in palliative care. You guys know all this, the unity of everything. But when it comes to all these things, it's about your relationship to them and your humility within them, that you know your place in it. And then religion or 12 steps or whatever are just fitness programs, right? A religion is a fitness program. In my religion, every Friday night and every Saturday is the Sabbath. Stop everything. We have people come over. They bring some food. We have some food. We do blessings around the table. I don't swing a chicken over my head. It's all okay. But people get, you know, they're changed by simply saying a blessing. I'd like to bless my mother who's not doing well right now.
Right.
And I'm having trouble getting out to see her, and it's really weighing on me. Well, after that, when we eat our meal, we're not talking about the latest Netflix show.
Mhm.
You know, we're talking to each other. So you have to encourage connection, and spiritual counseling is helping people to do that with different tools. And there are different tools.
And it's all a sense of being brought back into, whether it's thoughts, feelings, or conversations of meaning, of purpose, you know, rather than just, like you say, what's on Netflix. And I often, you know, think of my actual size, not in my chair,
Yeah.
because I'm big, but in relation to the universe, that it gives me a sensation of truth, of insignificance, and
Yeah.
you know, like a reality of how unimportant I am, but also I have to be brought back to where I am important and where I do fit in, and that's that hard transition, you know.
Right.
And you know, you speak of the 12 steps, and you know, your ritual of having people over, and it's meaningful, it's purposeful, and you know, I
There's a
often,
place for both. There's a place for both. So
there
there's
has to be,
6 days of doing,
right,
and then you demarcate one day of being. Imagine if
We're
all of us,
reminded, right?
right? So
Reset.
imagine if the whole world took the day off. The whole world didn't drive, didn't go do errands,
Oh,
didn't wash clothes, didn't do all those things. Imagine if people just went to congregate together and whatever. I don't care if it's a U2 concert. Just imagine people come together and then spend time with people they care about. And then that in that day, they did not use a ton of energy. They did not do all these things. If we did that, just that globally, it would have a profound effect.
yeah.
A
Mhm.
I just
profound
got
effect.
pins and needles thinking about it.
Yeah, and
Because I think it would have a pulse. I think it
so
would have.
if you smoke, for instance, or drink or whatever you do, on that day you can't do it.
Hmm.
So Orthodox people, I'm not Orthodox, but Orthodox people on a Friday night till a Saturday night can't smoke. So at least one day a week, they realize they can do this. And when I quit smoking cigarettes in my late 30s, I kept quitting. And people would say, you're quitting again? Like, clearly this isn't working. And I said, no, I think you got to keep quitting till you quit.
There you go.
Mhm.
And then one day I quit, and I realized at that moment, oh, this time I've actually quit. Like I wasn't deluding myself anymore.
Right.
Where you go for 3 months and then you go to a party and you have a cigarette, and then the next morning you're not craving one. So you
How
think,
do you
I've
how do
got
you
this
how do you think how do you think you got there? How do you think you got to that I quit? That's such
by
a
quitting, by quitting
by
over and
quitting.
over again,
So no
because there's
magical, spiritual,
no,
the
just
doors opened.
no, you know what? Sometimes you get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Mm,
right? And then the self-loathing doesn't fit with the rest of what you're trying to be as a person. And you have, like, I have 4 kids, right? So you look at your kids and think, I can't even do this by trying to help them. And yet, so here's an interesting thing in writing this second book. I'll just share this if you don't mind. I was just writing. And the thing with writing books is I've realized is just keep writing. Just keep writing. Every day, write. And never stop at the end of a thought for the day. Stop in the middle of a thought so that the next day when you sit down, you know where you are and you can keep going instead of, I have no idea, I just shut that down. So anyways, I'm writing, and I for some reason it came up in my mind that at one point I was doing a daily TV show where you got 2 weeks off in December. So you had to pre-tape shows. So one of the pre-tapes I thought was, there's these 2 middle-aged white guys I walk by in downtown Toronto all the time who are begging. And I'm thinking, what happened to these guys? How'd they get like this? So I had them come into the studio, and one of them, I always remembered his story. He had been a Bay Street lawyer, or a Bay Street guy. I don't know if he was a lawyer. He had a house in Rosedale, a very rich neighborhood, and he had a family. He now had none of these things. So I said, what happened? And he said, anything that gets between me and the bottle wins. You try to get between me and my bottle, you're going to lose. I don't care if it's my boss, my wife, my kids, my banker, you're going to lose. And in the end, I had nothing. And what I realized about our society, like I've been trying to communicate about climate crisis for 15 years, and people just can't hear me.
mm,
I thought, I don't get it. I'm usually pretty good at this. What is the problem? And I realized we're addicts. We're addicted to this material, consuming everything for us, me, receive, ecosystem society. So we can take it, extractive capitalism, we can grab and take, and we can leave behind disaster because we're addicted. Not because, we know better. We don't, we can't.
mhm.
Yeah.
An alcoholic can't afford to know better. He's got to get a drink, right? I mean, this is your territory, not mine. So
there's definitely a need for a form of disruption,
right.
right? It sounds like that's what you're calling for, like, right? And don't want to get be put in a place where my convenient life is disrupted.
Well, I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted,
Right.
like I believe I need this house. I need the right car, you know, and like an addict, you have to keep raising the game, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you get a Prius, you realize I should have, you know, I should get a Tesla.
Mm.
And if you
It's
get a
almost
Tesla, you should get the best Tesla.
you keep
Right?
raising the bar, but you also keep lowering your moral line on what you're going to do to get the money to do that. And
That's
same
right.
thing. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to rip people off. I'm going to just,
Yeah.
not see my kids all week. I'm just going to work all the time. Like
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
end up doing things like, I think we all grow up wanting to be a family person and part of and community and be of service. And somewhere down the road, it's like, well, that truck's really expensive. So I'm going to
Yeah.
axe the volunteering. I'm going to axe the free time. I'm going to, so, it's just, and then for some of us, it's like robbing banks and it's like
Yeah.
everything in between there, and
Yeah.
we're all doing the same
And
thing,
for some of us, it's like robbing banks in a different way.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly,
robbing the
exactly.
home bank, you know, gaming the
Yeah.
system, you
And
know.
you talk about so one of the things I read was anti-saging, no, aging. Well, let me look it up.
Aging to saging.
Aging into saging. That's it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is that?
That is, so I'm 67. One of the things we do, which is
Yeah.
an interesting thing on a Friday night, is in my tradition, I'm Moroccan. So in our
Okay.
tradition, we take the bread, the challah, it's an egg loaf, braided egg loaf,
Okay.
and you dip it in some salt to remember the slavery that we live in. And then you share it with people around the table. Well, two things we do that the Eastern European Jews don't do. One is we don't cut it with a knife, we tear it and throw it, right? So you throw it around the table to people. I've gotten pretty good at making sure the
You
person
throw it
catches
at
it.
people? Okay.
Yeah, you throw it and they catch it and then they eat it. So that's one thing. But the other thing that you're doing is you do it in order of age. Now, if you're in your family unit, who cares? Everybody knows each other's age and there's no taboo. But what I find interesting is when people come over and I say, so I'm 67, how old are you? Because it goes from oldest to youngest. And then you see people looking around going, oh my God, do I actually have to say how old I am?
Mm.
49. Oh, you? 52. And it's painful, right? Because we're not supposed to age. And if you do age, you're less useful to people. And what we've done is we've created this whole part of our community that we just segregate and move into ghettos and say, you're done. Now,
Mhm.
the problem is we live much longer than we used to. So what am I supposed to do from 65 to 80? Play golf? I don't like golf. I don't want to play golf. How do I become useful and refind purpose in life when it's not paycheck, paycheck, paycheck? How do I get dignity when, as an elder, I'm not respected? You know, I remember there was this kid, I was doing a show, I was executive producing a show. So I had, there were a lot of people when you do a TV show. So I had like, I don't know, 15, 20 people out in the area. New guy, new kid. He's at his desk. And I walked by and he goes, good morning, Mr. Benmergui. And I was about to go, oh, just call me Ralph. And I thought, no, just call me Mr. Benmergui. I didn't say anything. I just left it at that. And he always called me Mr. Benmergui. And I just thought, we don't do that. When I was a kid, you never used the first name of the, parents of the friend you had. You showed respect.
Right.
In our culture, it's everybody is your peer.
Mhm.
And so these are things that rob us of our dignity as we go through life. And most people, if you ask them, do you want to end up in a long-term care home? It's like, no, shoot me.
Yeah.
So what kind of a society is that we're building, that you actually are terrified of getting older because nobody wants or needs you anymore?
Right.
Loneliness. The United Kingdom has a sub-ministry in its health ministry, a ministry of loneliness, literally.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
I've got to Google that and see what they do.
Yeah, because why do we drink? Why do we take opiates? Because there's that wonderful feeling for a moment of
Mhm.
just like, oh,
Mm.
I'm okay now. And you keep trying to get that, and then it gets further and further away, and you're chasing it, right? But it's an emptiness, and we have to fill these emptinesses in ourselves. We can't hope somebody else will do it for us. It doesn't work.
And I mean, it so relates to what you're saying, even in our own individual lives, in relation to any elder in our lives that's maybe developing illness or becoming less independent with themselves, that to bring them in is going to disrupt what I'm addicted to, what my routine and convenience is. And so just in that position in my life, I'm going to find a care home to take care of you. I'm going to,
Yeah,
you
you're going
know,
to outsource your family.
I'm gonna scoff and try to find every other opportunity other than to bring them into my home and take care of them and consider their dignity. And
Yeah,
it's true.
it's like you live with your parents.
Yeah.
It's like a curse. Like in other cultures,
Other
that's a
cultures, it's
completely
no way.
normal thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, if Giuseppe was living in Sicily right now, one of my friends, he's actually of Sicilian descent, and he goes to Sicily, and he comes back. This is years ago. He's like a brother to me. We've worked together and been friends forever. And I said, "So, how was it?" And he goes, I got really sad because one day I was in the town that my parents are from, and there's some relatives there. And I'm sitting there having an espresso in the morning and out on the sidewalk. And I see this kid, might be 8, 9 years old, walking down the street, and an old man sitting on a stoop in front of his house. And the kid sees the old man, turns and talks to him for 10 minutes, and then says, ciao, and then walks away. And my friend Anton says, that was normal. Here, that's unheard of.
Mm.
You don't, if an old man tried to help your kid up at a playground, you'd run and go, it's okay, I've got it.
Yeah.
Because what are old people? They're decrepit, they're incontinent, they're depraved.
Yeah.
That's what we've done. Like in the book, I write about the statistics. 5% of characters in any sitcom, movie, or show you watch is over 65. And of that 5%, the vast majority are inappropriate, incapacitated, horrible to be around, all of these things. Yeah. This is how we do. This is
crazy, stuck in their ways, prejudiced, racist.
Yeah.
Although the Golden Girls, I just want to do a disclaimer. The Golden Girls, they had a green card. Like they were good. They were good. They were looked up to. Just so you know.
Yeah.
We're talking about spiritual counseling, and one of the things that we try to people want to fix things. Like they just like, this is broken, fix it. And so I go to an addiction counselor and I get a diagnosis from a psychiatrist. I go to a doctor, I get medication. This is how it's going to get fixed. And so we're like constantly relying on something, like, where's my chart? Tell me what's wrong with me, and all that kind of stuff. So how does somebody like, that's in this world that we're talking about, so to our listeners, like how do they still do that? Because you need medications, you need to do all that health piece, a disclaimer out there as well, that's important. But how do we get this spirituality piece in the forefront? And how do I, like, what do I do? Not just people in recovery with sponsors, just everybody. Like how does this work? Like, what am I supposed to do something every day? What's the prescription pad gonna say?
Well, I don't have an answer for you, because the people I work with, my wife's she's a psychotherapist.
Okay.
So if somebody says, my issue is a severe addiction, she'll say, I'm not the best person to do this with you. I
Okay.
don't specialize in this.
Mm.
So
But I do have 3 people who
so
you can
let's
go
move
see.
forward. I'm 6 months in recovery. I'm no longer using opiates or alcohol, because there's a lot of people I know, including myself, that still need help, you know. So
Sure, we all do.
how do I like it's not just the addiction piece anymore. It's just like
Right.
regular life.
Okay, so
How do I fix myself spiritually? Any tips?
well, I think the thing is, how do you eat an elephant, right?
Oh,
One bite at a time, right? You don't try to eat the elephant. So you don't think, oh, I'm going to change everything and everything is going to be great. So one of the pathways is actually a thing that I use. It's an old Jewish pathway called Mussar, Mussar. And there's actually someone from Vancouver, Alan Marinis, who's written a lovely book called Everyday Holiness. I'm just getting it to show. There it is, Everyday Holiness by Alan Marinis. So in Mussar, there are 17 character traits. And what I do is I have people work with a character trait every 2 weeks and write journals on it. So I'll give you an example of some of the character traits. And what happens is we're on a spectrum of where we are with it. Humility. So most of us think humility is, don't deferring. Don't mind me. I'm a humble and don't mind me. It's not that. It's knowing where to place yourself in a situation you're in. When do you need strength? When do you need to listen? Humility is about appropriate positioning within a situation, whether in your life or in a situation with other people, or your situation as a citizen. So humility is a requirement of accepting that the universe is unknowable and greater than anything we could possibly imagine. So that's why people bend a knee when they go into a church, because you should lower yourself for a moment. There is something bigger than you. And knowing something's bigger than you can sometimes help you to get through things, instead of, I've got this all on my shoulders and I got to do it right. Now, I'm not much for transactional God. If I do this, will you do this for me? Because that's more about receiving again instead of giving. But there's patience, gratitude, order, honor, simplicity, silence. So you take note in your week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, where did this come up? Like somebody used to be able to come up to me in the Shoppers Drug Mart or something and just, you're from the TV. No, wait a minute, don't tell me. You're that Ralph guy. And I'd just be mortified. I'd just be staring at the floor. And they'd be like, oh, I love your stuff, man. And I go, yeah, thanks. Yeah, okay. And then, they'd walk away, smiling or not. And my wife would go, why did you do that? Like they're honoring you. Like, okay, they're not doing it in the most efficient way, but they're honoring you.
Right.
Just say thank you. Right. And what I've learned to do is in casual interactions with people, even on email, who I've known for a long time, I will stop once and write them an email saying, in regards to nothing in particular, I just wanted to tell you that I've always valued your friendship. And I think you're just a wonderful person, and you've really helped me through some things. And I just wanted to let you know that I think about that and you matter to me. That's honoring somebody. And some of them can accept it, and some of them are like, oh, why'd you do that? That's silly. But it doesn't matter. Say what you need to say now. Silence. When I was a teen, I'd love watching. I remember there was a camp counselor I had, great guy, Andy Sos, and everybody's yeah, and he just said nothing for the longest time. And then he'd finally say something, and it was great. And I think, why can't I be like that? Why am I? So all of these things are character traits that if we develop them, our lives can become more spiritual, and each is one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do the whole thing.
Mhm.
It's so much about recognition and what we've been, whether taught to believe or chose to believe, whatever. But that, even what you just said right there, why can't I be like that? The answer is you can.
Mhm.
If you recognize that it needs a little bit of work, that it's something you want to aspire to, and that you're willing to do the work and keep yourself accountable. But to just submit to, I wish I could be like that, like as if I couldn't. And I love that list of traits, and that spectrum is the beginning, I think, of being able to recognize that I'm all of these things. I have the capacity for all of these things, and I may have been raised or taught or chosen to believe that I am, at the low spectrum of humility, and that's all the capacity I have. And then I just live my life believing it.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, and this is for whatever reason we're brought to our knees, this is then the process
Yes.
of recognition of our capacity to be as great as that guy over there, as humble as that guy over there. And it's just a matter of, if it takes a couple of years to attain that, am I willing to do so?
Yeah, it's
Right?
working from the outside in, basically,
Yeah.
right? Just get some, loving kindness is not just, oh, whatever you think, it's great. Giuseppe, I really, I understand you're yelling at me and swearing, but it's okay. It's not that at all.
No.
It's from the idea of generosity, loving. The other end of the spectrum is strength. If you're yelling at me and saying abusive things, spirituality is not doormatting. You have to have a lion's roar to
Right.
engage it. So you have to be able to go, hey man, no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't accept the way you're speaking to me, and I have a boundary here, and you've crossed it. So we're going to just back off for a while here. And if you can't handle that, that's okay right now. But I can't be in this with you. Dance alone.
Mm.
Because you
Sure.
need that. In that case, that's the loving thing to do, is to let this person know that this is not the way you speak to people if you want a good life.
Yeah.
So it's all about accepting our situation and being loving towards ourselves. I'm sure that in your journeys of addiction, and in mine, we're not just addicted to substances. We're addicted to ways of life. We're addicted to self-loathing. We're addicted to things that are all part of a cluster that takes a while to dissolve, if we're lucky. And if not, we all know that there's a whole bunch of people who just are never going to wake up.
Right.
Mhm.
They're just
Yeah.
never going to wake up. And that's so sad, but
Yeah, I'm
It's
pretty grateful that I've been given the opportunity to kind of wash my brain. People say brainwash. I'm like, it needed to be washed because it was pretty messed up and
dirty.
kind of frazzled. And it's just like, you talk about sitting at the edge of the ocean. I remember the first time I went to New York City, and I was there by myself for one day, and walking around, and I was just like, wow, I could die right now and nobody would care in New York City. You know what I mean? It's like it's just like completely, like there would be no flowers on the light post, the next day or anything. Like I just had this moment of like the look at all of this, and to think, before I got into recovery, like I honestly thought I was the center of the universe. Like I just
Hmm.
everything had to do, like if it wasn't, like it's me and mine, and you're hurting me, and you're not hurting me, you're making me, like it was always me perspective.
Hmm.
And that took a little while to go away, and you revert to that, as a self-defense, I think, sometimes. But
Hmm.
but the periods of time, or of losing my serenity have gotten a lot shorter. And and I'm nowhere near being like spiritual, perfection. Like, just absolutely, I still
No,
got
no,
way more
no,
work
no
to do.
one is
There's no
anywhere near that.
perfection. Yeah, I guess I knew
Yeah,
you were gonna say that as soon as I said it.
yeah. When someone says to me, "I'm a perfectionist," I just say, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
what a horrible thing to do to yourself.
yeah.
Because
Horrible. You're right.
if you get near it, you just move the goalposts. It's like, yeah, I can't really get there because that wouldn't be perfection. Yeah, no, no,
Ah,
I feel for that, but the insignificance is a loving moment,
it's a
right?
gift. It's
It
like,
is.
Yeah,
wow.
because
Yeah.
it also means it doesn't mean you're not personally responsible for. So there was this lovely thing I read in a book recently where, we use the word karma all the time in Western society.
Okay.
And we use it as, oh, you do bad things will happen to you, man. What goes around comes around, comes around, goes around, blah, blah. But this is what it's like, people garden Buddhas, you just buy a Buddha, put it in your garden, you're done. Right. And it's the same thing with that stuff. But what it really is about isn't that kind of hollowness, like you've got to dig in.
Yeah.
And you got to put in the spade work of just getting things rustled up inside of you, And if you're not willing to do that, then it's all about you. What's George Harrison's song, right? All through the day, I me mine, I me mine, I me mine,
Hmm.
right? That's what, and that's what we're doing. That's what we're addicted to. This is the sad thing for me. So this woman talked about karma and said, karma, everything that has happened in the universe, try to imagine that little thought,
Hmm.
in the universe has led up to this moment that right now the three of us are in.
Hmm.
Everything that has happened had to happen for this to happen.
Isn't that wow?
What happens next, the thing we do or say next, any of us, the three of us, will affect everything that happens afterwards. And I thought, wow, that is just the best explanation of karma I've ever heard. I
Right.
loved it.
Wow.
Yeah, this woman is an ordained rabbi and a Buddhist nun.
that's
She's both.
so wild.
Well, there's lots of things now that,
Wow.
it's like the Celts. The Celts took Catholicism and turned it and mixed it with paganism.
Right.
It's like
Wait,
the Catholic voodoos in Haiti. You can cross pollinate.
and you're a Moroccan Jew.
Yes, I'm a Spanish Moroccan Jew.
I mean, and it works, and
Apparently,
there's an adaptation of cultures and traditions that
yeah.
that
My
work.
wife's an Eastern European Jew. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, your
Yeah.
food is beige, and it all starts with a K. That's
Yeah.
Eastern European food. Kreplach, knish, knedlach,
I just want to go back to what you just said about karma. I mean, the idea of like everything we're gonna do next will affect everything else. And we're so stuck on that idea of like I have to control what's gonna happen next. And this belief that because if I have to go to the bathroom in 10 minutes, I know I'm gonna control that. And I'm gonna go you know what I mean? So I have this intellectual piece that yeah, I can control my surroundings, but do I control them?
No, not in
Like,
the
do I?
least. No, but you do have a choice. You have to, free will is what we have. So the next thing you choose to do. So if I choose to go, you know what, guys, like I'm bored. I'm out of here. I have entered that into this feeling between the three of us, poisoned that well. And now that's what's part of the universe going forward. Right.
Yeah.
And control, it's like HR. I love HR, human resources, when they go, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, the old joke, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans,
Right.
Yeah.
like, come on, man, like
No.
5 years, I don't know. If I asked you 3 years ago, if you thought you and I, the three of us would be talking,
Right.
you wouldn't even know who I was. He was like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. I won't be talking to him.
Well, and I appreciate that perspective of karma, in the sense of, like, you talk about, the climate, and our disconnect from nature, and even myself, when I get into that dialogue with someone, it's like I feel guilty. What am I supposed to do? What can I do? And because I gotta go, like, yeah, I gotta unplug everything. I gotta move into the forest. You know what I mean? I gotta raise my kids, teaching them how to hunt and gather. That's where my head goes. And it's just, I love that, what I do next.
Right.
In the
And
same
what,
space.
with what intention do you do it?
Yes. And
That's what matters.
and I could choose nothing. I could choose to do nothing.
That's
or I
a
could
choice.
choose to take one little bite of the elephant, right? And just do one thing that adds a little something. And that's maybe enough for right now, and that.
Yeah, that's what I like about Musar. It's a fitness program. It's
Yeah.
practical. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm going to work on gratitude. So I was on a retreat recently where the theme of the retreat was gratitude, and it was only men. And we had large gatherings for services on Friday and Saturday night, and then some programming, but we also got together in small groups to talk about gratitude. So I was facilitating one of these groups, six men. One was a judge, one was one was a judge, one was an influencer on social media. Like, it was a really interesting group. And we talked about gratitude, and the biggest obstacle to gratitude was never feeling like you have enough.
Yeah.
How can I be grateful if I just keep thinking I don't have enough? Right? There's the old story of Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller, two American authors. And they're at a party at the time, millionaires were still a thing, a millionaires party in Manhattan. And Vonnegut turns to Heller and says, man, like, this guy, look at this thing. Like, this is crazy, this party. Ice statues and half-naked servers and, unbelievable appetite. Like, this is crazy. He's got everything. And Heller says, well, he doesn't quite have everything. He says, what could he possibly have that doesn't already have now? He goes, but what could you have that he doesn't have? And Heller says, I have enough. Right? And that's a really hard thing for us to get to, because the entire culture is built around advertising, marketing, and desire. And advertising works on inadequacy. You have to make me feel like I don't quite have enough to sell me something I don't really need. But that's 70% of our economy is run by not enough. I need more.
Yeah, I mean, you just think of everything walking into a London Drugs. It's just like, I don't even need any of this stuff, but I'm going to buy it anyway. I just don't know what that is.
Oh, a
I don't know what that
waterproof
is.
bandage. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because you never know, right? You're listening to Talk Recovery Radio, coming to you live every Thursday on Vancouver Co-op Radio. And, Darren and I are excited to have you listening. You can replay our shows at talkrecoveryradio.com. So how do people get in touch with you, get in touch with if they want to buy your book, want to learn more about all this?
Go to ralphbenmergui.ca. So it's a bit hard to.
How do you spell it? Let's see.
Yeah, exactly. So Benmergui, I've spent my whole life doing this. So Ralph is pretty simple. My real name is Raphael, but we moved 7 times when we came to Canada. So every day the teacher, Raphael Benmergui, and be like, I'm here, and I'm the new kid, obviously. So I ditched Raphael, which I've regretted for the rest of my life. So it's Ralph, a synonym for vomiting. So I live with. So Ralph is Ralph. It's all one word. So Benmergui is B-E-N. Ben. Mer is M-E-R, not M-U-R. B-E-N-M-E-R-G-U-I, which is Spanish grammar, Gui. So Benmergui. In Spanish, you would just say Benmergui, Raphael Benmergui. But in Canada, it's Ralph Benmergui. So
Benmergui.
ralphbenmergui.ca, and you'll see anything there that you can get in touch with me for spiritual counseling. You can get in touch with me about, you can order my book, you can do different things on there, my podcasts, whatever.
Well, amazing perspective, and I'm glad you resurfaced. You know,
I'm not dead.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, just such a great conversation, and I think you know, so many of our listeners, of, you know, even myself, are definitely, I don't know, maybe it's having kids, maybe it's just hitting an age where it's like you like cannot contemplate about these things, but that they're I can improve. I can do more. I can, you know, be what I'm envious of that guy being, and, you know, and connect to that, you know, and make positive changes, and you know, for people watching, because like you say, just zoom out on your phone, you know, and you're not that big. Zoom back in, and there are people that know you're alive and that are watching you and that are hoping that, you know, you're of a spiritual nature in how we treat other people. So I thank you, Ralph, for coming on the show today.
My pleasure, guys. I
Okay.
really appreciate you.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening. Catch you next Thursday right here on 100.5 FM or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk Recovery Radio. Take care. Thank you. Bye. Thanks, Darren. See you next week, Darren.
Bye-bye.
Bye.